Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues. Hi, I'm Bonnie Violet. I'm a trans, femme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, digital chaplain, and person living in recovery from a lot of things.
Right on. And I'm Lulu. My pronouns are he and him. I am a former Miss Castro Country Club. I'm in recovery for crystal meth and alcohol. And I am always searching for balance. And with us is.
And I'm Josh, and I was named that for some reason. I'm not quite sure. My pronouns are he and his. And yeah, I'm just here today. Thanks.
And I'm Sam.
All right. And each week we provide and create a brave space where we engage in conversations around topics of recovery.
Yes. And our intention is to inspire and hold better spaces for people in recovery
by tackling topics used to separate us.
But before we do that, please make sure you like, share wherever you see this or you're watching this, and ding that bell.
Ding it, get notifications.
How are we doing? How's it going, Bonnie?
I'm good. How are you? It was raining today outside, so I came indoors and it's a little less, colorful, but hey.
I'm sure your rain was a little different. Our rain, we had a little rain too. It was weird. It's warm. Like before, in before times, this was kind of earthquake weather. The gloominess or whatever, and the warmth is all tropical. But now, whatever.
Back when you were a kid, like when was that?
Oh, hi. Okay. So it's really funny. With our topic being about friendship and recovery, it's like we decided to invite some friends, not ours, but somebody's friends.
Right.
and unfortunately, the lovely Anthony is away. He's not sick. He's just work commitments, and that's why I'm sitting in his seat, because otherwise he would be like, "Get out of my seat, Lulu."
Right.
So let's dive in. Let's talk about friendship and recovery. So for our guest, it's like when you think about like friendship and recovery, what do you want to share with us to start?
I mean, friendship in recovery, I think, is a lot different than friendship out of recovery. Let's just, make that distinction right now.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I figure that like Anthony normally shapes it. I think that the gift that we get, especially because I can say this because we're here. I'm not spilling your tea. Most of us are in recovery. When you do the work to get better, to grow yourself or whatever, you learn how to be a better version of yourself, and you learn how to show up for other people. And that way you can show up. Friendship obviously is a little different, because before I got sober, the people that I was friends with, just like any relationship, I feel were kind of transactional, and they could stop on a dime. Like they had an expiration date. I don't know about you guys, but most of them had an expiration date. Like you say the wrong thing, the wind blows the wrong way, and all of a sudden they disappear, or they go into recovery, and you're like, where'd this person go? So Sam, we're friends. What do you think about friendship and recovery? How does it differ from before you came in the rooms?
Well, I think so I'd like to talk about like the three different types of friends that I have had. So before I started using, I had really close friends, people that I could trust on, they can trust on me, people that I supported me and I supported them back. And then once I started getting into using, then all of a sudden those friends that I had started disappearing, and I surrounded myself more with using people, And then like in early recovery, Lewis and I are litter mates, and we developed a really strong bond. And it's challenging the first 2 years of learning how, like Lewis says, not have a relationship that's transactional, but also too, how to have healthy boundaries. And that was the most important thing is learning how to mind my own business, not try to control or manipulate people into doing things that I want, or just being myself and enjoying our friendship.
Absolutely. What about you, Bonnie? Bonnie's always.
Right. Just being all quiet. No, I mean, yeah, I felt like I had good friends. I felt like I was a good friend, before I got into recovery, yeah, definitely coming into recovery, I started to see things very differently, and a lot of those friends that were such good friends, weren't around anymore, and we just didn't quite seem to connect in the same ways. But it was really kind of a surprise to me how much my reality wasn't real. And the longer I got sober, the more I came to understand. And I really saw where I was not a good friend. Like I
Oh
really
yeah.
saw where I failed because I had just yeah, I just was not good at like, if things weren't working, I just would bounce or, and it didn't even necessarily have to be with them. It could just be for me.
Don't you feel like that was where like the change for me, I know, came when I was finally able to acknowledge how I was showing up. It wasn't about how anybody else was showing up, it's about how I was showing up. Because if I'm thinking I'm a good friend, obviously, and I'm not looking at my shit, I'm always gonna put the blame on other people.
Hmm.
When I came in, the most important thing for me was this tribe of people that like I said, Sam was one of them. But we have this tribe, and while it's important to somebody told me you can only have as many people in your life, quality people, as you're willing to nurture. And so it's like maybe using your hand, like as many people on your hand that you can count. But in the beginning,
That's your friend? Is that what you're saying? Your hand is your
yes,
friend?
you know what? For a
Is
while
that
it was. For a while,
okay?
there was a 4-year period where that was my best friend. And it's like, and I have no problem with it. Somebody said meditation, masturbation, and I don't know, whatever.
All
But
reliable, right?
liable. But when you come in, and I think that the relationship you have with the sponsor, but your littermate are people that are kind of struggling the same way that you are, being messy and everything. I came in thinking that I had to do this shit perfectly. And I
Mhm.
had really amazing people tell me, you know what, we didn't come in sobriety to become better people, whatever. We just needed to get right with ourselves and stop using. And
Yeah.
so at the time, finding these people that we can run with who were moving in the same direction, who probably didn't get, that was fine. Unfortunately, that group didn't last. I mean, it's really great that you and I are still connected the way we are, but when we grow and you start to become who you're supposed to be, it's important for you to kind of, love people from across the street. You have to kind of, you know what I'm saying? Do you get it?
Indeed.
Yeah, Sam's giving me this look like he always does. The hell is
I
he
feel like
talking?
right? I feel like Josh is trying to jump in.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I actually wasn't trying to jump in. I was like a
Ah.
million miles away thinking about just how friendship is an expression of love.
Uh-huh.
And
Mhm.
and no matter how intimate that expression is, it's meaningful, and it's something that we can really start to kind of grasp and practice on, like when we're in our out of a self-centered way of living.
Mhm.
And yeah, just I mean, really, to me, just like I can think of friends that like have offered me friendship, people that have offered me friendship over the course of my life, whether I was able to return it or not. It wasn't necessarily expected. They were teaching me how to do that in life, and then at some
Mm.
point, I think once sobriety kind of took hold, I was able to say, "Hey, this is of great value to my life, and it's time that I start practicing this."
Yeah, indeed. We do have a couple of comments, if Brandon wants to bring any of them up. Does anyone want to read that?
Hi, Ray. So in recovery, I find that relationships become genuine, mutually supportive, but not all about 12-step. Okay. Uh-huh.
I agree with that.
Well,
That's
no,
true.
yeah. Well, yeah, no. I mean, well, here's the
I
thing that. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think go ahead. Yeah, I mean, the thing that I was gonna say, like, it doesn't. I think what happens is that we become more integrated to
Yes.
where our lives are so connected to our recovery that there's not really, like, because I know in the beginning it was very much this is 12 step, this is everything else. So, but I think eventually it just kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember, like in the beginning when Lewis and I were first hanging out, we would always go to meetings together,
Uh-huh.
go for fellowship afterwards, and then get a little snide with each other. You need to call your sponsor.
Oh yeah, exactly, exactly. I think, and Ray, not to say anything against what you said, but I think the thing that I've figured out, like, okay, so early on, before you completely understand, I used to compartmentalize my recovery. I used to think that this was recovery over here and this was not recovery. Everything I do is recovery. And so it's like I agree with you. Those friendships take on a newer meaning, but I think that everything we do, even like going to see Bernadette Peters, was recovery
Right.
because we were taking care of ourselves. We're hanging out and doing things that were good for us. Yeah.
yeah. It did take a while to get there though, to have it that way. Like
Oh God.
I really had to be compartmentalized for a little while. And partially I think because I don't know if it was shame. I think probably just a lot of shame that, it was difficult for me, and also just feeling misunderstood outside of kind of the rooms, especially with like, recovery related things.
Mhm. I think a lot of it too is I wanted, I came in people pleasing and I wanted everybody to like me. And I wanted all, and I'm one of those people like, I do it less now, but I'm paying more attention to the group of friends over there laughing and carrying on and wondering why I'm not a part of, and not paying attention to the people who I'm with. And I used to do that a lot and get blown out of shape if people weren't cool with me. And I think, like you were saying, it takes some time. As I got to know me and as I got to know what it is I was into, it wasn't that I needed to try to change people to accommodate me. There were people who are already living and being and breathing exactly the way I what I needed, and I was able to kind of gravitate towards them. And so, yeah, I think that it's important to kind of be able to identify the people that are you can be cool with. Who do you jive with?
Right. Speaking of the whole people pleasing, I think that was one of the other issues that I had was being a people pleaser and also being codependent. I know in my using that I would always make sure that I had plenty of food in the house in case someone came over. Oops, sorry. Supposedly came over, right? And make sure they had something to eat, make sure they had something to drink.
Like they were going to eat.
Exactly. But
Right.
they also, but I was also using it as, like Lewis said, as transactional. If I did this for you, you need to come over here and do that for me. Whereas now in recovery, just sitting, like Josh and I, we were just hanging out in front of the CCC before. I didn't even know he was doing it. He didn't know I was doing this. And we had a really good conversation. And the conversation was, hey, what's going on in your life today? It wasn't, even though we know that, at least for me, that I know that recovery is first and foremost in my life, but I can also talk about other things with other people. I mean,
Yeah.
Lewis and I, when we went to Bernadette Peters, we didn't sit and talk about recovery or talking about your, calling your sponsor. Or
We talk
doing
shit about
things.
the people in front of us. No.
Lewis did, not me.
In my mind.
Exactly. But, the thing is that learning just how to be present and being myself.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that's the biggest thing, is being myself and knowing that that person doesn't want anything from me other than my friendship, vice versa. Like, that's all I want from Lewis sometimes is friendship.
Yeah. That's not what you say. No, I love this. It's like I can tell I'm going to be getting attacked this episode. But that, it's almost like Anthony is still here.
Right.
No, John, do you want to read that? Okay, John. Hi, John.
Hi, John.
I still have friends from my early days in 1987, and I still have some friends. My only true friends are in recovery. The friends I had prior to recovery are only high school friends. My drinking friends disappeared. Absolutely. It's like, I don't know, but that was my experience. It's like, well, actually, I got sober, and then I was like, I'm going to be one of these people. I'm not going to turn my back on my friends, quote, air quotes. And so I would hang out with them at the bars. And I remember one day, it was very significant. We were hanging out in Dolores Park. It was a warm day when we back when we used to have warm days. And we all decided, hey, let's go to the bar. It was a bar on Castro, and everybody goes to the bar. It was like 2 for $1, and they started ordering 2 for $1, and I ordered 2 for $1. I'm all, oh God, I can't do this. And what I didn't realize in that time is like, I can be friends with you. We don't have to be at the bar. We don't have to go to the bar. And once I realized, like, we can do other things, and I wasn't trusting them enough to ask them to kind of, expand what we had going, And so some of the people, they stuck around. Others didn't want me around because they thought I was judgy. Because they're all, oh, you don't drink now? Oh, okay. I'm all, honey, whatever. If you don't like what you're doing, that's your stuff.
Right. So, when you were talking about that, and the comment that John made remind me of my friend Scott. Scott.
Yeah.
So, Scott was like he's still like one of my closest friends and everything like that. I knew him before I started using. In fact, he was the one who turned me on to meth, onto ecstasy. And, but he always had a rule. The rule was you only do it on the weekends or you do it on your days off. And he adhered to it, whereas my addiction took off. And I remember a couple times, like, while he was slowly backing away from my life, and one night he met me at the end up, and he saw the people I was with, and he pulled me inside. He said, "Sam, I don't like the people you're hanging out with."
Was I hanging out with you that night?
Yes, you
No.
Probably.
I know.
he was. And and I told him, I said, "But Scott, these are good people."
Yeah.
And my friend Scott said, "No, they're just users."
Yeah, we didn't know the
Right.
difference.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, but I do think I think one of the things I do want to clarify though is that they're not necessarily bad people. They're
Uh-huh.
just not in alignment with like where you're going, like where you're going in your life. I mean, I think the part of the thing that's challenging for me is with like, it's kind of like that shame. It's like it's like I'm not a bad person and that's why I drank or had a drinking problem. You know what I mean? Like, so I think I'd want to try to get away from like the value statements. Like they're not bad people. They're just not compatible with my way of living right now. Or
Yeah,
Just-
I
no,
don't know.
yeah,
Just doing the best with like what you have at that moment.
right. I agree with that. That was my friend Scott that was telling me that and everything.
Sam judges people a lot. It's like, that's
judging
the
Lewis
thing.
right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. That's the thing we work through.
But anyway, so I remember also too blaming Scott for my disease. I remember sitting there one time and, I'm like, "Hey, Scott, you're the reason why I'm in this." And he turned and he said to me, "Well, I'm going to take you to rehab." And I said, I can't go today.
It's busy.
I'm too busy.
I've got to
You
wash
know?
my hair.
Exactly. And then, once I started getting to recovery, when I went over to MPI in Oakland, guess who showed up? Family Day. Every single weekend, Scott did. And to this day, we are still close friends. He's a
Yeah.
brother to me.
Sam's gonna cry.
I am going to cry. I'll tell you a Lewis story too, if you want.
Oh yeah. Well, if we have time, Josh, I know that he's like silent.
No, I'm good.
It's silent but
over here.
deadly.
Not at all. I am just thinking like very deeply about this. Like friendship is like this thing that it moves, and it moves over the course of time, just like similar to how like lovers do, and things like that. And it's beautiful how it changes and should be respected. Like, when somebody leaves our life and they're a constant in some way, it's making room for something else to come into our lives. And I was just thinking about the nature of friendship, and not as something that is fixed. Just how lucky we are to meet so many different people and share so many beautiful, intimate moments, and carry those with us.
Like I said, silent but deadly. It's like,
Right.
You are
Well,
so
yeah. Well, and I'm curious to I think it would be interesting to talk a little bit, what does it mean or what are the expectations of a friend or being a friend? Because I feel like when I feel like I had really just unachievable expectations of what it meant for me to be a friend or for you to be a friend. And I feel like in some ways it's been an interesting balance to try to figure out, because there was also expectations that I should have had that I didn't, and so it's about kind of like figuring out, because there is some level of expectation, but what would you say some of those expectations are now?
well, for me, I think honesty is important. It's like I always say, it's like I feel like for me, what I want to work towards is I want to be able to tell you what's going on, what's closest to my heart, and not have you judge me, not have you take me down. But I also want you to call me out. Call me out. I don't need you to support me blindly on things, although we will support each other. What I need to know, for me, I'm always like I said, I'm looking for balance and I'm trying for growth. And if I'm surrounded with somebody who's kind of a yes person, or who is afraid to ruffle my feathers because they think that I might not be able to handle it if they tell me the truth, that to me is. But it takes some time. I have friends now, like our relationship, like all of us, it's like we can have a conversation. If you say, "Hey, Lewis, that was not okay," and thanks to the work that I've been doing, I can receive that. Now, mind you, the wrong person says that if we're not that close or whatever, I might pull out my switchblade and start cutting a bitch. But
Right, which is kind of like an openness might lead to another expectation, is like having an
absolutely.
openness.
Mhm.
Well, I think for me, expectations for me, especially when I start placing them on a friendship, what I find is whenever I expect someone to do something that's allegedly close to me, a lot of times I'll find out that they fail those expectations, and in that I get hurt more than the other person. I'll give you an example. A couple of weeks ago, I had I texted a friend of mine, "Hey, call me. It's really important." I mean, it was kind of important, but it wasn't really important, and so I think maybe I was kind of underlying. I was testing that friendship, and then all of a sudden, that person never called me. Later on, sends me a text. "Hey, I just woke up. What's going on?" I was so angry that he didn't call me over something, that I thought was important, but wasn't necessarily important now. And so when I expect someone to do something for me right then and there, and if they don't meet it, what does it say about me?
Yeah.
And that's a big thing, is if I'm placing too much value or too much importance on something and someone fails it, am I setting myself up for failure as well? Which I think most of the time when I do that, I find that I am, and
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, there's times where I set my alarm at 9 p.m. to say good morning to somebody else really far away that I can do nothing but just say, "Hey, how's your day going?" And not having any sort of expectation that I mean, we're all living busy lives. We're all doing the best that we can. And so just making space for people to show up how they are with whatever they're going through, and just kind of offer them, our friendship. We can't be everybody's friend per se, but we can be everybody's, sit down a while and let's talk. Or, I'm sorry that last person was a jerk. And just kind of create those moments, and those build over time. And I think it kind of strengthens any interaction, and sometimes it can become a friendship, like a lifelong thing.
Bonnie, something you talk about all the time. I think friendship is about grace.
Mm.
Friendship is about grace. It's about allowing more room for people to be flawed, to not be perfect.
Yes, and someone who can give you grace.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. It's kind of a mutual little dance there. It's a tango.
John says that I keep expectations. Sorry, I jumped to the next one. I keep expectations low because I don't expect them to be able to be available all the time. But if I call and leave a message to get back to me at some point.
that's good.
Well, recently, and I've talked about this ad nauseum. It's I like being by myself. I live by myself now, so I'll go home and I like my downtime or whatever. And I think about how I am, and I imagine that other people would be that way. So it's I'm grateful for the time I get to spend with the friends that I have, and I make the most of it. But I'm also good with, if you got other stuff going on, and I realize that sometimes my friends have other friends. I'm all, how dare you not prioritize? No.
There's something cool that happened recently I kind of want to share, actually.
Yes.
So when I was a teenager, I was growing up in Central California, which is, there's nothing out there. So I had just moved out of foster care and was renting a room and going to community college. And my roommate, she worked at a bar. Anyways, I was asleep trying to be responsible, early, at 9 p.m. Well, they shut the bar down. So the whole bar came back to our house. And this woman entered my room because I had an extra bathroom in my room, and she was trying to be really quiet. And I just turned on the light. I was like, "Hello?" And she's like, "Oh, there's a bathroom in here." Anyways, from that moment on, I was 18. We became friends, and we used to hang out and play guitar. And she would sing and whatever, and I would play guitar. And we formed this really awesome friendship. She had a daughter, and we got together all the time. And anyways, she had disappeared into the Mormon church, and I didn't hear from her for 10 years. So anyways, fast forward, I kind of touched base with her, reconnected a couple different times, and she was, struggling a lot. And I had some time in sobriety, and it was far out, man, because just a month and a half ago, I get this call, and it was from her. And she's just if I can't stop drinking, and if I drink, I'm going to die. And it was so specific. And it was just how do I show up for this person, right now? So I immediately call my sponsor, and he's just "You said yes, right?" And I was like, "I did, but I don't know how I feel about it," because she was my friend for a long time, and so much time has passed. And, it was a strange situation to be in, to be, put in a position where she trusted me enough to tell me this. It was so specific too, right?
Mhm.
If I drink, I'm going to die. It's some people just say it, they can't say it. And she said it. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, I feel like I'm being put to task here. So, again, like the nature of relationships change over time as well. So anyways, I just kind of wanted to point that out. I thought it was an awesome story.
Oh yeah.
That's an amazing story.
That's
I
beautiful.
mean, that's where true friendship comes in, where you can actually call somebody up and rely on them, and they know who to go to.
That's the gift of recovery, because it's like if you were drinking and using at the time, it's like, come on. Old friends call up, and I'm thinking kind of like that in the big book where that old friend called, and it was like an oasis. I'm like, girl, come on, let's drink, let's go out.
Yeah. Well, and that makes me think of too, like, I think maybe even early on, if people are early on in recovery and they feel like they're losing friends or losing connections, to realize that there might be a day when, you might be able to be friends again. Like that, and I know for me, like, it makes me think of, like, so I had somebody who wanted to sleep with me in the program, and I was like, I realized that they didn't have as much time. I just wasn't comfortable because of the time that they had. And part of that for me was, it's like, I would rather be like somebody in the program there for them than, like, than sex or whatever. And so I think that could give us some hope, in the sense that we might not be able to be friends today, but maybe one day, like, especially if we continue with our recovery, and it's attraction, not promotion, and all those sorts of things. Like, she came to you because you are in recovery and you're living your life in a certain way that, she knew she could come to you.
Yeah.
Bonnie, I like how you talked about early recovery with friends, especially with friends before I got heavy into my addiction. I remember, like, when I first came into recovery, that, oh my God, all my friends are going to come back. All my good friends. But no, they didn't want anything to do with me.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I remember talking to people about that. Hey, my old friends aren't coming back. What gives? And and then someone reminded me, like, well, what did you tell them before? I'm not going to use again. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. But I kept doing it over and over, and I kept disappointing them, and it takes time to establish a friendship. That's why I love our recovery fellowship, because Lewis and I and Josh and Brandon over there have known each other a very long time, at least 10 years.
At least.
At least 10 years. And that's where I got the skills on how to become a better friend.
Yeah.
On how to, if I say I'm going to do something, I remember that, in the beginning. If you say you're going to do something, do it.
Yeah.
Don't make promises you're going to keep. And if you can't do something, just tell someone you can't do something, especially in recovery.
Mm-hmm. And then also,
and it's okay.
A great way to sort through bullshit is if you have someone who is not allowing you the grace, as we said, that's fine. Great. I'm gonna let you be. I've had to walk away from some relationships. One of the things that I talk with sponsees a lot all the time when they're struggling with people in their lives, I want them to know is, like, you got to ask yourself, do you feel this relationship has any legs for the future? I mean, is it going to go on? And if it's going to go on, then you need to be willing to do whatever work is required. Like, there's some relationships, there's some people where I don't think anybody's throwaway, but there's some relationships where it's just not going to work out. We don't mix well. But there are some that, we need to be in this, and we have to do the work. And I think that's why our relationships get so better, because we stick around and do the work.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be, at least for me, it was a very painful process. I had a nickname when I came into recovery, and it was Biscuit, because I was super flaky.
Oh.
And I didn't know why they called me Biscuit for a long time. But it turns out it's because if I said I was going to do something, and at the time, like, my intentions were good. I never had so many things to do with so many people. So I would overcommit and things like that. And that was a struggle for me in the beginning. But yeah, it's just kind of finding our way.
I was like, what baked good would you be now? Like a sticky bun? Or
A sticky bun.
Far from, girl. I don't even know the croissant that fell behind, like, the stove.
We talked about a while back at a meeting. We have it pretty good in the rooms, because you get, I think that, like, if I just moved to San Francisco and I didn't have recovery or whatever, unless I know to kind of maybe try to find people that I can relate with, and what I do, like volunteering or whatever, you go to the bars and you're limited, because that's that culture. People are there for whatever. What we have here is an opportunity you meet people that are all working on being honest, being better versions of themselves, and if you're willing to do more work to kind of stay connected, because
Yeah.
but the landscape of my friendship has changed over time,
Mhm.
and what's beautiful is that I people that I don't spend quality time with all my time now, we're still good. We just have moved into wherever we were supposed to be, and I think that recovery has been such a gift for me because, like you said, I was thinking about that. It's like, of course, I'm gonna be a little flaky. It's overwhelming. An embarrassment of riches. There's all of these amazing people who really genuinely want you to be around, unless they don't want you to be around. And then, you know, some of them are, some of the things we learn here is to be really honest.
Well, and it can be a difficult thing to receive all that. I know that for me, I think that was a lot of it, is not trusting it, not believing it, not thinking I was worthy, not knowing what to do with it, because I had never really, I'd never been part of a community that had those sorts of like social norms. And I think that's the thing that's nice about like friendships in recovery. It's like we start with there's like these agreements that we all have that we're kind of trying to play by, which I think makes it a little bit easier to develop friendships and connection and trust, that then we can kind of take uh that same approach when we're out in community as well, and making new friendships or stuff, or being able to talk about what maybe some of those agreements could be, and being in a relationship with one another.
I think something that we should talk about before we stop talking is when you have a friendship that you thought was going to last forever, especially in recovery, and it falls apart, and they do.
Mm,
And then you have to kind of deal with it because I mean, when we started this, like I was having challenges with a really close friend of mine who, thank God, we're back on track, but it was really challenging. So what are some of the things that or do you have any experience or how you've handled or walked through this?
what are you sure, Josh? You don't say much.
Okay, yeah, no, time.
Mhm,
Sometimes it's just takes time.
mhm.
And again, if we're like putting in the work somewhere in our lives or in a relationship, it's should be these principles we practice in all of our affairs, and we shouldn't be in the results business when it comes to anything. Because that
Mm,
includes these relationships and these chance encounters of intimate interactions, whether it's spiritual or physical or emotional in any sense. Like I mean, it's not ours. Like it's all icing on the cake to begin with.
I saw
right,
I saw
right.
Sam, I saw Sam light up. Go ahead.
Well, because he sounds so sexy when he
Yeah,
talks.
I
He
know.
has that deep voice. No, I mean, I think for me, like in the first year of recovery, it's all about learning about setting healthy boundaries for myself. And I know in that first year, I mean, knowing Lewis and Brandon,
We had a mutual friend who was full
we
of shit, and we agreed.
exactly, but the whole thing is learning what's, I mean, what the other programs say, the hula hoop,
Yeah.
what's within my within my
Mhm.
boundaries and everything like that. But learning how to set a healthy boundary for me, because I know that I could be extremely codependent, and I know that I can actually go overboard thinking that all these things I'm doing to keep this friend, right, is exactly what's pushing it away. And it creates an unhealthy atmosphere for me. The thing that I do know today, especially, is a friend is someone who shows up for you no matter what. You can be gone for like a couple of years, and then all of a sudden, if I need some help and I reach out to somebody and that person shows up, that's a friend. And hopefully, like if someone reach out to me as well, and this is all programmed, though, I'm going to show up for that person, and be
Yeah.
there. What's that saying? To be a friend, you have to have a friend. You have to be a friend.
Yeah. One friendship story I was thinking about, like kind of recovery later. We call each other sister now. Like but we met as friends. We're like chosen family, and our friendship started with like ecstasy and club kidding, and like showing up, like my sister showed up for me when I got raped, and like I showed up for them when their partner was killed, and like we've had this relationship throughout our entire life, like I guess since our 20s, so 20 some years. And then like recently, like 2 years ago, he got sober. And but we also had like before that, we had like it kind of got toxic because I was sober, but I was like codependent, Al-Anon, like he triggers things in me that makes it really difficult for me to have boundaries, to not hold him to like crazy expectations. And him getting sober, I thought was gonna like lead to us being like close again. And we attempted to do that, but recently we weren't able to do that. And one of the things that I know for me is that it just triggers like so many things in me that I almost can't even control it. You know, like I still have some healing, or we have some communication that needs to happen, and we're just not there yet. It's been sad and a little disappointing, but it's just the reality of where we're at.
Yeah. There's a silver lining. There's some people that I knew from out there doing their thing. I think it's a testament to my relationship with my higher power. I feel like there were always people that were put in my path, and it was for me to kind of, connect with them. But we found our way to recovery, and now we have a friendship that's different. That's not what it was there, but it definitely is different, and it's based on the principles and the things that we're working towards now. And so I think that everything's possible.
Mhm. John brings up a little story about a friend as well. So John says one of my sober friends and his partners are going to move. It's hard to replace a close friendship. I know it's going to happen sooner or later. I'm still wanting to have a backup close friend, but it's so hard to find someone that has the same common backgrounds: workout, recovery, flight attendant. I'm working on it.
Oh, we know a lot of flight attendants in recovery.
We
Yeah.
do. And people who are aviation.
I know, and a former air traffic controller here.
And someone who still works in the field.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Are there any thoughts that y'all want? We have about 10 minutes.
Actually, I was thinking about, which has kind of been kind of on my mind. A lot of people have been kind of questioning my close friendship with a really good friend of mine, whose political ideals completely are not in line with mine, or are complete polar opposites.
Let's hear about this.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for years to hear about this, just so everybody knows.
I know exactly right.
I think one of the things too is that, and it's funny because I had met one of my closest friends and everything through recovery. And the one thing that I've always taught and I've always learned is that there are a million other topics, subjects that you can connect on, and that you can identify with, and that you can agree upon, and that you can get along with, except this one little portion, of that person. And what I find is that sometimes it can be challenging. And then we've had many blowouts, arguing over politics. But the one thing I keep asking myself, well, why do you stay in this friendship? And I keep, the only thing that I can think of is because he's a friend.
Yeah.
And I know that I've had several normie friends of mine, people in recovery. It's like, well, you can find another friend.
Yeah, I just want to say that I just read an article about Cheney in Wyoming, actually, and about putting like country above party. And that's that kind of, I think it comes from that same place. So like you said, there's a million other things to talk about, and that's amazing. And I actually am inspired by hearing that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's like, I think the key, like for me on that token, as I had to practice the hula hoop thing.
Yeah.
I had to think about it, because the challenge was not, it's really for me to make sure that I'm living in my truth, that I'm practicing my integrity, that whatever. And just because it's uncomfortable or I don't understand for you, it's not important for me. We all have to decide how we're going to show up. And, if that means that I no longer talk to Sam because he's talking to that person, I guess that's just it. No, but I would never do that. Look,
but conflict is like being able to have conflict and still be in relationship with someone is, I think, a really big sign of, it could be a sign of codependency, but it also could be, a sign of actually having a healthy relationship with someone.
It presents an opportunity.
yeah, I thought that
There you
Sam
go.
was in love with that person, but I guess not.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
No, that was my go-to. You know how good friends are. I'm all,
He's being judgmental.
no, I'm not being judgmental. I'm not being judgmental. No way. It's like, that's not me.
He's assuming things.
Oh gosh. So, what I don't know. It's like, any last thoughts before we I mean, do you notice how fast it went? Go ahead.
I love you guys.
I love you too.
This was
Love you too. Don
Don,
Don has a comment. Go ahead.
Don says, being sober and making amends to him has allowed me to become friends with my oldest brother. He
Mm.
respects my sobriety because he can see how much happier I am.
I love you, Don.
Oh yes, thank you,
That's
Don.
great, Don.
That's a good point. It's like I think that like relationship with family is weird because
Mhm.
we are connected by blood or whatever. So sometimes we have this misguided idea that we are are obligated to always be in their space. But one of the things that we learned through this process, we got to do some work. And if they can live up to, if they can meet us where
Yeah.
we need to meet them, then we can become friends and family in the way we're supposed to. So yeah, that's a good point, Don.
Yeah, Don, that's inspiring to me today also as well. So thank you for that. I'm just going to stay the course and try to take it one day at a time and hope that happens in my life too. But again, let go of the results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can disagree and not be disagreeable. Exactly, Ray.
Yep.
But it's always nice to do some Real Housewives stuff.
Yeah.
Throw some wine, throw something, and flip a table. So
Yeah, go ahead.
we've come to the end. So it's like, Bonnie, do you want to tell everybody how they can reach you?
Don't you usually do the? Oh yeah, is that how we do it? Okay, yeah, you can reach me at a queer chaplain on all the things are at aqueerchaplain.org. I'm super excited to be hosting a spiritual drag con in 10 weeks, and registration and bookings for drag artists and panelists are all out right now.
Absolutely. And you can always reach me on the gram at LouieLou86. And can they reach you all anywhere other than in the TL behind?
But you probably see me back here again. I'm taking I'd say like a 90% social media break.
Oh,
Okay.
and you can find me here on Thursdays at the Castro Country Club volunteering from 10:30 to 2:30.
Yes, we've got an actual volunteer. And I want you to know the Castro Country Club is a clean and sober gathering place for all people and a home for the queer recovery community. We're located in the heart of the Castro district of San Francisco, and we endeavor to be a space where all can seek wisdom, serenity, courage, and joy. And you'll find more information at castrocountryclub.org/podcast.
And we love hearing from you all, whether it's in the comments during our live show or it's clicking the link in our description to our speak pipe. At our speak pipe, you can, what's that? Yeah, at our speak pipe, you can click on that and leave us like a good old fashioned voicemail that we can then show on the episode. We had one last week. I think it was last week or the week before that.
Yeah.
So, so please do interact with our pipe.
Yes, and and I believe the last one you had up, you can reach us at podcast@castrocountryclub.org. And also, Brandon, you put up, tune in every Tuesday at 4 p.m. where we go live, Castro Country Club Facebook and our YouTube channels.
Yes. So we'll see you next week.
Oh, and you can find us on all your favorite podcast sources. And we will be here next week, and I believe Anthony will be back, and these two will be gone. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for joining us.
You're always welcome to join us. Yep.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's a good jam.